Savio, do you want me to start? Or you want to wait another minute?
It's 12:30. We have
Uh,
95 participants, so yeah, I think
just wait
yeah.
just another minute.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, good evening all.
Maybe while we're waiting, and for those of you who have joined already, and I see the participant number still going up, and that considering that we have close to 400 registered participants, maybe we wait a little longer. But maybe for those of you who are already here, and well, the prospective students, if you want to enter in the chat where you're coming from, that would be interesting to us.
I think we can get started.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. So I was about to start by saying good afternoon, but now that I see all the different places that people are from, I should say good morning or good evening or any good moment of the day, depending on your and on your time zone. It's nice to see people connecting from so many different places to this session. So welcome to our Zoom session today for prospective grad students. So I'm Viviane Yargeau. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, who is also the home of the School of Architecture and the School of Urban Planning. And we're thrilled to have each of you here today as prospective students. We hope that the virtual session will provide you with valuable insights on our grad programs, the faculty, and give you a sense of the vibrant academic community that we have to offer in the Faculty of Engineering at McGill. So you will have a chance to ask a question and engage with us throughout the session. There will be breakout rooms later that will be available depending on the programs that you're interested in. And we're excited to meet you today, although it's virtually. and to share more about the exciting opportunities that awaits you at our institution. So there will be few of us presenting some information to you. But before we get started into the details, I would like just to give you a brief overview of the Faculty of Engineering. And we can start with the first slide, Savio. Okay, so I think that the first key point is why you should pursue grad studies at the Faculty of Engineering at McGill. And we try to highlight 4 main reasons for that. So there are several ones, but we think that those are very important one. First, it's a very diverse faculty. We have a diverse body of high caliber and engaged grad students and academics as well, with an international stature. So McGill is really an international institution. We have world-class research. So we're consistently ranked as one of the world's top engineering school. And we have equally a strong community of faculties with world-class research centers and institute. And I will give you a bit more information about that in the next few slides. It's very interdisciplinary. We have research centers that are interdisciplinary. It's cutting edge innovation. There is a lot of collaboration with the industry, either in Montreal area, in Quebec, or even abroad, that lead often to technology transfer, social impacts, or employment opportunities after graduation. And another highlight of studying at McGill is that we're located in Montreal, which is a vibrant city, and it's a safe campus and safe city downtown Montreal in Quebec in Canada. So next slide, Savio. So a bit more about the McGill community. So if you have looked at different rankings, so one important one is the QS World University rankings. And in 2024, we were ranked 20th in the world overall for the university at McGill, and we were 41st for the engineering and technology. And for the best student cities, Montreal is ranked 13th best city in the world to be a student. So that's why it's highlighted as one of the 4 reasons to study at McGill. McGill is also associated with 12 Nobel laureates. 3 Canadian prime ministers did their studies at McGill, and 147 Rhodes Scholars, which is an indication of the success of students that have been trained at McGill. So the next one. So the Faculty of Engineering now, if you look at the composition of the grad students, so we have almost half and half doctoral student and master student, and 33% of the grad students are female. We have a bit of a lower proportion as faculty, but we do have a strong female representation, and the female professors comprise about 22% of our faculty. Now for the academic units, and you will see you will have the option to join the different department and school for the breakout rooms. So we have 6 departments of engineering and 2 schools. So we have bioengineering, chemical engineering, civil engineering, electrical and computer, mechanical, mining, and material engineering. And for the 2 schools, we have the School of Architecture and the School of Urban Planning. Now, just to give you a sense, so I did mention initially that you have the possibility of having multidisciplinary research exposure. So we have several research institute centers or network which provide a good framework to do grad studies, because it's a way to connect and expand your network outside of your research group. So we have different institute on material, on aerospace engineering, and an institute on sustainability and engineering and design. We have several research centers on communication, intelligent machine, water, plasma technology. an aerospace material and alloys, a center for innovation in storage and conversion of energy. And we have related units, so there are other departments of engineering, but they're not located in the Faculty of Engineering. So the Department of Bioresources Engineering, the Department of Biomechanical Engineering, and we also have a close connection with the School of the School of Computer Science, which is located in the Faculty of Science. So through these different institute centers and networks, it facilitates your integration and your collaboration with people in related disciplines outside of your research group, and your ability to grow your network is definitely catalyzed through these different center and institute that we have at McGill. So I think starting the next slide, it will be the Associate Dean Student Affairs and Kittigs that will walk you through the process of applying and give you a bit more information about the programs.
Thank you very much, Viviane, and welcome everybody also from my side. So yes, as just said, I'm Anne Kietzig. I'm the Associate Dean for Student Affairs, and in the couple of next slides, I want to give you a few more details about your possible graduate journey at McGill. Next slide, please. So there are different programs, different degree programs that we host in the Faculty of Engineering. Well, there's the degree program of the PhD, but then we have the differentiation between the Masters of Engineering and the Masters of Science, and also the Masters of Urban Planning. We have a specific Masters of Engineering, Sustainability, Engineering and Design, more about that in a moment. Also in Aerospace and in Architecture, which would be the Masters of Architecture. Next slide. So the key differences between the different masters that all comprise a duration of approximately 2 years are that they are either course-based or thesis-based. In general, the Masters of Engineering is a course-based option, and Master of Science is a thesis-based or research-based option. What's the difference? Well, as the name says, a course-based option means there are far more courses. It's a little more like your undergraduate studies. There's limited financial support available. You're basically studying in the context of courses, the material yourself. You can specialize yourself in specific domains. On the other hand, in the thesis-based master, you would take fewer courses, but have a research project and be in direct supervision of a professor throughout the entire studies of your masters. And so that's basically the entrance into a possible PhD degree then after. However, that's also possible coming from a course-based master's. Then there is the possibility to directly enter from a undergraduate program to the PhD, which is very common in many US programs. However, I want to highlight right away that this is far less common at Canadian universities. What is happening quite frequently is that master's students transfer from the master's program into the PhD without completing their master's program, which we call a fast track program. In exceptional cases and with basically the support by a supervisor, direct entry might also be possible. Next slide, please. So the important question is probably how will you fund your graduate studies? And I want to give a few more details on the next couple of slides. When we consider master's funding as a master's student, especially a research master's student, so meaning a thesis student, there are different options available. First of all, if you are pursuing your master's and you apply for governmental scholarships and you win those, the faculty will give you a top-up of $5,000. Alternatively, or for those of you who are, I've seen that a few of you are presently at McGill, or you have done research already with a McGill professor, you have the possibility to qualify or enter the competition for a MUSMA award, so-called McGill Engineering Undergraduate Master's Student Award, which will cover your stipend of $25,000 per year for 2 years. And for international students, this also includes a differential tuition fee waiver. And the eligibility criteria are obviously high CGPA. And as I mentioned early on, you have to have fulfilled research activities with a McGill professor already in the past. Next slide, please. So when we come to a doctoral degree, there are different funding opportunities out there. This being said, before I go into the details, generally all doctoral degree students receive funding from their PhD supervisor. And then there are different awards on the faculty level available. For Canadians and permanent residents, we have the McGill Engineering Doctoral Award, so-called META Award, which comes to $27,000 per year over the duration of 4 years. And generally, you qualify for that competition with a CGPA above 3.5. However, we also take into consideration past publications, extracurricular activities, and alike. If your CGPA is even better and you're above 3.7, you enter the competition, automatically enter the competition for a BADAS fellowship, which comes to $32,000 per year for 4 years. For international students, we have the MITA Award, which is a McGill Engineering International Tuition Award, which basically means that your tuition difference between the international tuition and the domestic tuition is covered for up to 4 years. You qualify with a CGPA above 3.5 to enter into that competition. And if your CGPA is above 3.7, you have a good chance of possibly receiving a McGill Engineering Doctoral Award for international students, which basically comes to the same take-home amount as the domestic META Award, as you get the 27,000 plus the tuition difference covered. Finally, there's the opportunity to apply for various governmental scholarships. If you win one of those, there will be a top-up from the faculty onto those tri-agency scholarships. So with that, maybe we move to the next slide. Beyond the basic stipend funding and covering living costs, there's also the opportunity given by our Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies to obtain travel funding. And that's particularly interesting if you envision participating in research in another laboratory in another country, or within Canada in some other location. And I don't want to go into all details, but there are different awards available there with which you can support such research stays for a certain period at other universities, other research laboratories. Next slide, please. So coming to the application process and the important deadlines, and that would be the next slide. Here we've outlined on a little timeline the important steps that you need to fulfill to apply. First of all, you want to identify a supervisor, and I will elaborate on that a little in a couple of slides. I encourage you to very diligently review the application requirements on the department's websites and the school's websites for those departments and schools where you're interested in. Keep in mind that the deadlines might vary between different schools. So if you're interested in 2 different schools, 2 different departments, be aware that the application deadlines might vary between the 2 of them. You want to make sure that you early on request the transcripts from your current or previous academic institutions, and that you find people that are willing to write you good reference letters, so that you can submit all of that along with your online application, which is, the link is provided here, which is happening online. And then submit all the supporting deadlines in time for the application deadline, which will be seen on the next slide, please. So here we see the deadlines for application for the fall semester. And if you're interested in mechanical engineering and you haven't applied yet, then I encourage you strongly to do so within the next 9 days, because the deadline is on December 1st. But as you can see on the little timeline here, the deadlines vary from department to department or from unit to unit. And I also want you to keep in mind that these are the deadlines as presently noted on the various websites. There might be changes in the deadlines moving forward. So if you watch the recording of the session in a couple of weeks, make sure that you double check the actual application deadlines. Next slide, please. So with that and rounding up, you have to choose, so I encourage you to choose the school that's right for you. And what's right for you might not be what is right for your peer, your best friend. Obviously, a prestigious school can create many opportunities, and maybe those opportunities are those that you're looking for. But an important consideration is also whether you actually like the location where the school is. We will provide you with a bit of an opportunity within the breakout rooms to talk to present students within the unit. You can also reach out to present students through very often supervisors or supervisors' websites, ResearchGate, LinkedIn, and the like. Double check that the university is not only a prestigious university that you want to apply for, but that actually offers the program that you want, and that you don't miss a deadline for the program that you want to apply to because you've been too focused on the school. What is very important for Canadian schools, especially at McGill, is that in contrast to other universities, if you are looking for being accepted in a thesis-based program, meaning a thesis master or a PhD, you have to secure a supervisor before you are admitted. And so in contrast to many US schools, where you're accepted into a program, you only are selected or choose a supervisor after your first term. This is not the case here. Keep a lookout whether you have to write specialized exams aside from a language test. And then last but not least, make sure that you don't sell yourself short. Aim high, but do that with a backup plan so that if things fall through, you're not there without any opportunity. Coming to the next slide, please, and talking a little more about what I see popping up already in the chat. Yes, you need to find a supervisor before admission. So you want to reach out early. Take contact well in advance with deadlines, if still possible. Try to meet prospective supervisors, ask your questions in interviews, reach out to graduate students, and also in your questions or in your discussions or your emails with supervisors, get all the necessary information. As the supervisor presently taking on new students, if not, can bombard them with emails, but they might not respond very favorably. You want to check what's the track record of the supervisors for graduating students on time. What is that on time in the program you're interested in? Is your research interest or your background actually aligned with their research? So don't apply, don't send the same email to all supervisors within one department. Typically, colleagues speak to one another, and it doesn't speak for you if you're sending everybody in a unit the same email. You might want to look out to the recent publications of the prospective supervisor, see what type of journals they published in, if they published with their students, with how many students, in collaboration with whom. And then other considerations that might be worthwhile discussing in an interview is conference attendance, the frequency of conference attendance and the possibilities to present at those conferences, the frequency of individual meetings or of team meetings, how you're accompanied on your journey in your graduate studies, and what is in general the management style and the expectations of your supervisor, and does it match your desire or your expectations for your supervisor? So this hopefully gave you a few questions or starting points for further exploration. With that, I want to move to the next slide, please. This leads me to send you off to the different breakout rooms. So in just a moment, or maybe already, that's what I don't know, but Xavier will open breakout rooms, which are program specific. So for each unit, there will be a breakout room where you can see the presentation of this particular unit. There will most likely be a professor, a administrative staff member, and a graduate student will be present there to answer your questions, to give you further program-specific information. Here within the main room, I will remain. And if you have general questions about any of the slides that you have seen so far, I'll be happy to respond to them or present you more information in general about Montreal. And then there's one particular breakout room that I want to make you aware of, which is the one for Engine, which is our center that assists students in entrepreneurship training. And whoops, now we switched the slide, Savio, if you could maybe go back. We need to go back to the breakout room slides, please. There we are. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so what did I say? Yes, please leave us in just a second for the breakout rooms for the program-specific information or for the Engine if you're interested in entrepreneurship training. Stay here if you have general questions about anything I've covered. And if at the end of this entire session, not all your questions have been answered, I encourage you to book an advising appointment. The link is listed on the slide, and you also have the email address to Graduate Studies Engineering. That would be the faculty contact, basically covering everything up to here in that presentation. You might want to reach out to your specific department of interest if you want program-specific information. So with that, I encourage you to leave me here almost alone and move to the respective breakout rooms. Thank you very much.
And then Savio, just before I leave, will someone respond to all the questions in the chat? It wasn't addressed how those would be answered.
That's a good point. So I think Christine is already answering them
Okay.
as we spoke, and there are quite a few. So I don't think, yeah, Christine's speed is as high as the questions are coming in. So we're taking care of that.
I'll try and respond to them as well.
Otherwise, we should tell them that they should resubmit those questions so they get the answers that they're looking for.
A lot of them came in at the same time as Anne was talking about how to secure a supervisor and so on as well. I don't know if we want to circle back to that, if we have enough students in the room, because I think a lot of people were wondering about how to secure a supervisor. I don't know if there's anything else we can elaborate on.
So I maybe while we're waiting for people to leave, I can comment on that a little bit. I've seen a couple of comments that people have reached out to supervisors and didn't hear back. That might have two reasons. That might have the reason that you might have not sent an email that was original enough to get full attention, that the research field wasn't very well aligned. That might also have to do with the fact that the supervisor might not have been, very interested at that point in time. You can still apply. You will end up on a big pool of applicants for the specific program. And the chances are that once the application season really comes in and all our applications are closed, supervisors are looking into that list and pick candidates from there. But so it basically goes two ways. You reaching out, and if you're lucky, you get a response early on. And if unlucky, that response might come after the 15th of January, for example, when the deadline for international student applications is over, and supervisors actually go through the list and the pool of applicants, eligible applicants, because we have applicants that apply and are not eligible, and then pursue the applications from there.
Hi everyone, I just wanted, I see some questions on the chat about how to join the breakout rooms. So the options should show between the show captions and reactions button at the bottom of your screen on the menu. So you click on breakout rooms and choose the room from the program you are mostly interested in. Feel free to visit more than one of them and circle around or come back here for specific questions. And I see some of our professors are still here. Please join your specific programs room because there are probably visitors waiting to meet with you. Thank you.
I think we're having.
Thank you. So some more statistics. We're claimed as one of the best student cities in the Americas and the Canada's university capital. And in Montreal, we have 4 universities and a couple of academic institutions. Overall, we have 15 university institutions, 60 colleges throughout Canada, and among those, we rank top. There are 320,000 post-secondary students, including more than 200,000 university students, and a very big international university student population, especially on the graduate student level. The international students make up almost half of the student population. We have a lot of university research funding that's mirroring the excellence of the professors working here, which means that we have state-of-the-art infrastructure, equipment that is used in the laboratories, that is coming into, well, use through your research. And as the best student city, Montreal has tied with Boston in 2022 before Toronto, New York, Vancouver, or San Francisco. Next slide, please, Nancy. Or Savio, or I'm not sure who's navigating. So here's a comparison. I mentioned it earlier on. Montreal is a very low cost of living. Obviously, with within the last year, living costs have increased, I guess, everywhere. But of course, it's everywhere. We're still lower than in many other places. As you can see here, my apologies, Montreal ranks very, very well there. And we have comparatively low cost housing, low medical insurance costs. There are generous family allowances, daycare options, affordable childcare. That makes even studying with family here a possible undertaking. And one last slide about the concentration of tech jobs in Canada. You can see that in Montreal, where we're really in a tech center for AI, computer science, computer engineering jobs, but also aerospace. There are lots of high-tech jobs that are found here, 70% more than the Canadian average, with an index of 1.7. And that's basically re-emphasizing what I mentioned earlier, that there are excellent employment opportunities after graduate studies in Montreal, the Montreal area. Maybe one word to say about that. In Quebec, there is a good interest in exploiting your graduate student time as a time to also learn French. And of course, McGill, everything runs in English. We're an English-speaking university. However, if you don't know French yet, it's a great opportunity of learning another language and immersing in the culture around you. And it definitely helps you in getting this job in the Quebec, Montreal area. So I think with that, I'm at the end of the little pitch about Montreal. If you have any questions, I encourage you to ask those. And maybe Savio, if you can go back to the slide about the accepting the next one, accepting your graduate offers. Exactly. So, and that is a slide that is in general, be it for McGill or for other universities from which you might receive offers. Reconsider once you get your offer, and if you compare offers especially, what's the reputation of the research program and the research institution? What's offered as the funding package? I guess that's probably the first thing you're looking at too. But compare the funding package to the living costs and the costs that are not stated in your funding package. What constitutes the funding package? Does it include tuition? Does it not include tuition? For how many years is it? What additional opportunities are there to get money? Are they very time consuming or not? Like how many hours would be a TA-ship? And like questions at the time that you get your offer, for all thesis students, you will have a supervisor who has accepted you into their laboratory or into their research group. So you can ask those questions to them or to other students that are already in the research group. As I mentioned earlier, comparing the funding package against the cost of living, and also comparing what will you do in the time outside of your studies. Of course, studies are important, and that's what you're here in this info session for. But your life should not only consist of studying and advancing research. Your life probably has a big social component as well. And does Montreal correspond to what you like to do in your free time? And yeah, I think with that, I've covered some of those questions that you might want to consider when comparing or evaluating the offers that you're getting.
Hey, Anne, thank you. I was thinking of maybe inviting Katya from Engine to do her presentation here on the main room, since we still have an audience here. Is that okay?
Absolutely. I'm done.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to ask her to join us. Thank you.
And for those of you who are present here while you're waiting for the next presentation or hopping from one breakout room to the other, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat or reach out to us after. I have to unmute myself before I talk. If there are any burning questions from those of you in the audience, feel free to speak up and just ask directly. That's what we're here for. Thanks, Katya.
Yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. And I also have Min, who is a PhD student. So I have a 5-minute presentation, and then I'd like to give Min also 5 minutes to talk about his venture, also his startup venture based on his PhD work. Is that okay? I will share my screen, or at least share this presentation. You guys see it? Let me just get to present mode. Is that okay?
Great.
Okay, So I'll just go ahead. My name is Katia Mark. I'm the Associate Director of the Engine Center. We've been supporting technological innovators and entrepreneurs since 2013. We were able to begin the programs and create all of our offerings, thanks in large part to McGill Engineering alumni donors. Next, let me just click here. Okay, so our context here of why we offer what we do, which I'll get in more detail, is really, engineers have to be solving and trying to meet the environmental, social, and economic challenges of the 21st century. Okay, my clicking is not functioning. Just a sec. There we go. And really, engineering's ultimate goal is to meet society's wants and needs, and doing so in a responsible manner, really improving the lives of human beings. And so not only using our technical skills, but also in an entrepreneurial mindset, which is what we are promoting as well. So engineers that understand the bigger picture, recognizing problems and opportunities, and creating value for themselves and others, and really being agents of positive change. So which ties into our vision, the engine community, making a positive impact and contributing value to society. And so really our programming is a lot on the entrepreneurial mindset development, also working with the professors and the grad students in helping them commercialize their research, and working with companies for R&D collaborations, all in the hopes that we're driving innovation. How we support, we have the training and experiential learning programs, advising, coaching, mentoring, and connecting. We have project funding. One of the main programs for students is the Tech Excel. For grad students and professors, we have 3 different types of gap funding, really focusing on the development after you've done your research. And then we've got a lot of extra programming in terms of training workshops, seminars, lectures, many events. And then we have the physical center itself, which we were able to open in the end of 2019. And we're a MyTax approved incubator for their Entrepreneur Accelerate program. And Min is actually part of that program as well, and he'll talk about that shortly. We have a team of to support grad students and professors, including 4 entrepreneurs in residence, the Ronald Chuang, named after the donor, that are serial entrepreneurs and are there to also do the business mentorship in our gap funding programs. Values of being curious, questioning the status quo, collaborating, building our community, of course, sustainability, not just about the environment, but about the human aspect and the economic aspect. And then determination, failure is okay. You're going to learn from the failure. Just a quick snapshot, we've supported over 240 early stage ventures and projects, and for grad students that in terms of the funding and the profs, you can see that of the 1.4, over 66% goes to the grad students. It's more deep tech projects there that we're supporting. And that's just a snapshot of all the teams. Some are still ongoing startups, ventures, and others, they moved on to other things, but had the entrepreneurial mindset and making changes where they go, positive changes. A whole bunch of success stories. EK will be on there soon. These are those that have sales or that were bought out, but a lot of these are actually ongoing concerns. They've gotten investment, and they are creating positive change. This is just more detail on those fundings. I'll switch it over now to Min to talk about his startup EK. If that's okay, let me just stop sharing. But there is a range of funding. These are the gap funding that I was mentioning for commercializing your research. Okay, stop share.
Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so I'll just get started. Thank you, Katya, for the introduction. So we're EK, and what we're trying to do, we're trying to enable the next generation farming. So quick introduction about myself. My name is Min Tran. I did my bachelor in engineering in electrical and computer engineering with a minor in physics. And I continue to pursue my PhD career in also electrical and computer engineering. And my research topic is based on potentiometric sensors. And my supervisor is Professor Thomas Kopek. So his expertise is in carbon-based materials. He has a long list of awards, and his largest contribution to the entrepreneur aspect is that he helps spun off Aura Graphene Audio, which is manufacturing of graphene-based diaphragms for headphones. And together we're at EK, where we aim to help indoor hydroponics farm become more efficient and reduce waste. So I'm going to start with the problem. So one of the biggest source of inefficiency in hydroponics farm is nutrients imbalance. So there are three main types of nutrients, potassium, nitrate, and calcium. So as the plant grows, it consumes the nutrients in an unbalanced way. And after multiple growth cycles, the nutrients in the system becomes completely unbalanced. And typically what happens is that farmer would flush out the system, wasting water and remaining nutrients in the system. What they could do instead is that they could measure the specific concentration of each of the nutrients and balance them respectively to reuse water and reuse remaining nutrients remaining in the system. However, current nutrient system measurements are expensive in many ways. So you can send your sample off to a lab, which is a laboratory analysis, which can cost up to $500 per measurement, and it would take a long time for you to get the results, up to 2 days. Or you could buy a commercially available liquid filled ion selective electrode. And the issue is with these sensors that they're really expensive, can cost up to $2,000 per sensor. And they have a short shelf life of only 6 months. So after 6 months, you have to throw them out. And they require a significant amount of maintenance because they're liquid filled. So ion sensor technology are based off two main parts, a liquid filled ion selective electrode and a liquid filled reference electrode. So from our lab, we developed a graphene-based ion selective electrode, and we developed a solid reservoir reference electrode, making the entire system entirely solid state. So there's no liquid in the system. What this enables us to do is that we can make the sensor really cheap, up to only $2 per sensor. There's significant less maintenance because again, there's no liquid, and it has a much longer shelf life of at least 2 years that we know of. What we can do with this is that now that we can have a very cheap sensor is we can have real-time monitoring and feedback where we would balance the nutrients in real time. So what we can do is we can implement a microcontroller that would read each of the specific nutrients, potassium, calcium, nitrate, phosphate, and adjust with a pump in real time to ensure that the crop is always in the most optimal condition, which has a double whammy effect where it increases both productivity and a significant reduced waste from water and fertilizer. So I'm a PhD student, so I spent 6 years, just hanging out in the lab. So I'm very much focused on the technical aspect and challenges. I like technical stuff, but when you want to start a venture, you can't just do the technical stuff, right? There's so much more than that. Most of it is not technical. So I participated in the Tech Excel program. So that, there's funding to kickstart development, but more importantly, I was assigned a business mentor, Derek Wong, to learn about all the different aspects that's involved in having a startup. How do you commute with people outside of academia? How do you approach people? What are the important things to focus on? Because there's 1,000 different things to focus on when you want to start a startup. What are the main key points, right? And that really helped us, streamline our pitch and how do we communicate our venture in an efficient way that people outside of academia can understand. So that really accelerated us to apply for other funding opportunities. So we were also the recipients of the McGill Innovation Fund Develop Stage and Clean Tech Award, valued at $65,000. We participated in Dobson Cup, and we won the Stephen Powell Family Award, valued at $5,000. And also the MyTax Accelerate Entrepreneur, which was elevated from our funding from the MIF, which is around $22,500. So that's all I have to prepare, and I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
If there are no further questions, if there are questions, you still feel free to place them in the chat. If there are no further questions, we're also at the end of this little information session. I hope that you got the questions answered and responded to that you had. I see there's one raised hand. May we take that one last question, and then we probably at the end of the session. Two more questions. So my suggestion is maybe you can place these questions in the chat. That will enable more of us to respond to them. And I just wrap up here very quickly. I see people returning from breakout rooms. So, however, I think some of the breakout rooms are still active, so we will keep them maybe on for another little moment. And well, maybe we take those two questions that the two of you have the hand raised. Whoever wants to speak first.
Hello.
Hello.
Good day. My name is Haminat. Okay, my first question is, I want to know what are my chances for graduate program as a chemical engineering graduate? I have a background in chemical engineering, so what are my chances? What are those things? What are the courses I could look into for PhD or probably master's research program?
So for the research program, as I mentioned earlier on, you will need a supervisor. So I cannot make any comment on your chances because it will depend on the alignment of your research, of your interests and background with the potential supervisor's research directions. So there's no statistic that would be possible to be pulled out.
Okay, thank you. Also, my other question, please, is for admission. I noticed there's been a particular GPA over 4, 3 points, 2.7. So do you think there's chances for a graduate with background of 2.1 or thereabouts to get admission for a PhD research program?
Very, very unlikely. So it's really the GPA requirements are very strict.
I understand. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I have a question.
I think, I mean, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I have a question also. So I'm now finishing my master's degree in material science and chemical engineering. So I already published papers, and my GPA is 3.9. But until now, I didn't finish the IELTS test. So in the admission, when I apply, I didn't find anything that asked me to upload the certificates. So after I applied and finished the admission and pay for the admission, so when they asked me about the IELTS test, because if they didn't ask me, maybe I can when I do it, I will send it. So
that's a very specific question. I cannot respond to that because I'm not behind the platform. My suggestion is that you might want to reach out to the Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies through whom the applications are actually going. And they might be able to help you there. I cannot comment on that because I don't know the back end. Since it's 5 now, I will have to. No more question at that point. I apologize, but we're 5 minutes behind time or like overtime. Amin had his hand raised for a long time, so I want to give him the chance to ask his question, but then with that, this session will be over, simply because we have other appointments to go to. And I encourage you to reach out with your questions to your specific programs that you're interested in, or to the general, McGill Student Engineering Graduate Studies website and email address. Amin, please.
Yeah, I just have 2 quick questions. So considering the approaching deadline for the Masters in Mechanical Engineering, are the official transcripts required, or we can submit unofficial transcripts?
I think it's the unofficial transcripts that are sufficient at that stage. But again, that is one of those back-end questions that I can't totally answer.
My last question is, for example, if I get acceptance for the fall 2024 start, is it possible to defer the start until the spring, winter?
Again, I think that is something you would have to discuss with your specific program and supervisor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Generally speaking, deferral is possible. I mean, but yes, you'd need to speak to your supervisor to ensure that they would be allowing you to do that. And normally
Okay,
unofficial
thank you.
transcripts are what are required for the initial admissions. And then once you've been admitted, you would provide your official transcript as final proof.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we have closed all breakout rooms, so people are coming back right now. And if you want to say last words, and thank you everybody for joining.
I will do so. I just see the numbers as people still switching in. So I just want to give them a chance to actually join back into the session. Well, seems to be stabilizing around that number here. So I thank everybody who's been present in that information session for attending. I especially thank my colleagues who, populated this respective breakout rooms. I hope for all the potential applicants that you received the information that you were hoping for. I hope that I see that many of the questions have been answered in the chat. If there are more, don't hesitate to reach out. And the recording of the session will be made available. So in case you feel like you want to review something, listen to something again, you will be able to do so. And with that, I thank you for your attention. I wish you, wherever you are in the world, either a good night or a very nice day. I hope to see you one day at McGill. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You.